Hey YouTube, it's Gdubley, here with another episode of Psychics 101. Today I'm going to be covering two trains of thought in order how to build your Psychic deck post-Extreme Victory. First and foremost, you're going to be using cards like these in every single Psychic deck you use. They're just too good not to use. They're easy floaters. They're great tuners. They're great searcher toolboxers in the graveyard or out of the deck. Just too good not to use. So if you don't know what Taciturn Priest, Psychic Witch, Psygirl do, or even Mind Master, if you're new to Psychics entirely, go check them out. They just create too many plays, too many synchro plays, too much toolboxing, too good not to use. The two trains of thought I'm going to be discussing today are, first and foremost, the Psychic OTK, which a lot of people are starting to recognize. And then the second one is going to be an anti-meta-ish floater build that is very similar to stuff like gadgets. First and foremost, the OTK build, which everyone is clamoring about. The deck plays a lot similar to Fish OTK, except instead of having two tribute monsters in order to then tribute for your big fishy, you are going to need simply Mind Master along with one other Psychic monster. What this allows you to do is, through a bunch of life point payments and tributing monsters, get a field full of either Psychic monsters, or to get a field full of Psychic monsters in order to push for game. Now, this can be done in numerous ways with cards like, Hyper Psychic Blaster, with cards like Reinforced Human Cyborg and Psychic Snail, as well as Tech Genius Hyper Librarian in order to gain lots of advantage. There's just a lot of ways you can do it, and that's why the deck is going to be so good. Specifically, let's talk about Psychic Snail and Reinforced Human Cyborg. Cyborg becomes a 2,500 beater by removing two Psychic monsters that you already have in the graveyard because they're fuel for Mind Master, and Psychic Snail, pay 800, any Psychic monster can attack twice. And also, it's not limited to once per turn, so make sure you remember that, because you can make multiple monsters attack multiple times per turn, which is really just broken. Being able to search these out with Mind Master and Toolbox out and get out your Destructitrons or to blow up backfield, or if you're already under the protection of something like Royal Decree, or if you already made your Giant Shune play, you're able to just create huge monsters like Human Cyborg attacking for 5,000 damage, as well as having cards like Psychic Nightmare, 3,400 a pop, or Trample ability with Psychic Blaster. It's just too good. The deck is really good. It does play a little inconsistent. It does have dead draws at times, much similar again to Fish OTK. Obviously, your goal is to make it as consistent as possible. Deck is really good, a lot of options, plus deck. Look for it. The next version I'm going to be talking about is a version that's really not being talked about nearly as much. That's because it's kind of outside the box, and that's going to be the anti-meta 1-for-1 floater build. You're going to be using a lot of the same cards as you are for the OTK build or any other Psychic build. You're still going to be using these cards. They're just too good not to use, but you're going to be using them in a variety of different ways in conjunction with a couple other cards. Mind Master loses a lot less importance, or he becomes a lot less important. He still is great for this sort of build just because he creates tons of synchro plays. He creates just also tons of OTK plays in this deck. Even though this deck is a highly floater build, it's a lot more slow. It's still able to push for a lot of damage real quick and have a lot of OTK plays. Cards like Psychic Witch play a huge role in this deck. It's a floater. It's a great floater. But instead of focusing primarily on bringing Mind Master to the field, it's going to be getting Psygirl a lot. Level 2 tuner. When it's special summoned after it's removed from play, you get to remove the top card of your deck from play and then add it to your hand when Psygirl is removed from play. Instant +1. Not to mention it's a tuner and you can make a whole bunch of different things. Taciturn Priest is just always good. Lots of graveyard special summoning. Just good card is good. This deck focuses on one other Extreme Victory Psychic monster that really the Psychic OTK deck can run, but doesn't run nearly as efficiently, and that's Psychic Wizard. The OTK doesn't run it as efficiently because really you're not normal summoning a whole lot, and if you are, it's really just because you have Mind Master in the field and you're tributing you're normal summoning and tributing the monster right first and foremost. And when you're normal summoning, it's going to be the first turn, of which Psychic Wizard's effect is pretty much useless. However, in this sort of anti-meta-ish build, this guy becomes huge. 1900 beater, great drop, first turn, even if you can't utilize his ability. But if you can, it's just that much more goodness, because he's just a floater that keeps on bringing Psychic monsters back to the field and just creates a lot of plays. In the Psychic anti-meta-ish sort of build, you're also going to be focusing on the Natria monsters a lot more. Natria Beast, Natria Barkion, and Natria Landois become a lot more prevalent in the deck because it's a slower paced deck. You're protecting a lot more cards. You're making your opponent, waste 2 or 3 cards in order to get rid of your wizard on the field, and then you're just going to special summon a monster with Wizard's effect anyway. This build uses cards like Trap Stun and Solemn Judgment and Solemn Warning a lot more effectively, as well as cards like Smashing Ground and other 1-for-1 removal cards like Deprison. Both decks are very viable. I think the anti-meta build is probably going to be a little bit more consistent, especially until the perfect build is built for the Psychic OTK. But with the OTK, I mean, you just have the ability to ruin someone's day at an SJC and if a build is perfected, it's going to be so good that it's really going to be hard to keep down, and it's probably going to ultimately lead to the banning of Mind Master, which is kind of unfortunate for the Psychic type. But both decks are really good. I plan on playing both. They really don't differ that much, especially when you have the core group of monsters already. They don't really differ too much. So you really can effectively run both. Another thing I wanted to cover, the Synchro deck for Psychic decks is tiny. Your Synchro deck, or your extra deck, really has to be specifically tooled out for whatever deck you're playing. The OTK version really doesn't need Natria Beast or maybe even Barkion nearly as much as the anti-meta. And the anti-meta build doesn't nearly need Hyper Psychic Blaster or Psychic Nightmare nearly as much, just because they have different goals. That's going to do it for this episode of Psychics 101. If you like, please thumbs up, subscribe, get other people to subscribe, leave comments. Guys, I'm here for your feedback. I want to make this channel for you guys. Hit me up via PM. Let's talk about Psychics. Let's talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's talk about life. Don't matter. Hit me up, guys. This is Gdubley, and I'm signing out.